In January 2026, the Epstein Files Transparency Act triggered the release of 3 million pages of unclassified documents. This single legislative mandate shattered a multi-decade architecture of institutional silence. The data drop delivered immediate consequences. Elite figures who had long operated with impunity faced sudden legal exposure, culminating in the arrests of British politician Peter Mandelson and the man formerly known as Prince Andrew. The fallout reached the highest levels of the U.S. government. Following bipartisan outrage over the Justice Department's handling of the document releases and allegations of shielded names, Attorney General Pam Bondi was fired. This wave of accountability starkly contrasts with the initial federal investigation in 2008. The FBI's Operation Leap Year had prepared a 53-page draft federal indictment detailing 36 victims, many recruited directly from a Florida high school. That indictment was buried. U.S. Attorney Alexander Acosta negotiated a highly irregular non-prosecution agreement that shielded Epstein from federal charges. In a move that violated the Crime Victims' Rights Act, the secret deal granted blanket immunity to Epstein and all named co-conspirators. The difference between a buried indictment in 2008 and a global reckoning in 2026 requires looking past the criminal acts themselves. We have to follow a paper trail of billionaire wealth. Born in Brooklyn, Jeffrey Epstein entered elite circles through strict intellectual mimicry. Despite dropping out of university, he leveraged a teaching stint at the prestigious Dalton School to secure an entry-level position at Bear Stearns in 1976. At Bear Stearns, his ability to mitigate taxes for high-net-worth clients fast-tracked him to a limited partnership. By the late 1980s, he was hired to design the internal mechanics of Towers Financial, an operation that eventually collapsed as a $450 million Ponzi scheme. This chart tracks the capital influx that built his empire. He secured over $200 million and a Manhattan townhouse directly from Leslie Wexner. A second node shows $170 million from Leon Black, billed at 30 times elite industry standards. These two billionaires supplied 75% of Epstein's fee income from 1999 until his death, often papered over through sham charities to avoid public disclosure. This staggering volume of capital served a specific operational purpose. It provided the financial leverage required to purchase total compliance from the world's most powerful banks. Epstein bypassed traditional risk management hurdles by acting as a freelance client development officer. He guaranteed access to ultra-high net worth individuals, bringing figures like Elon Musk and Sergey Brin to major banks. This timeline visualizes over $1 billion processed by JPMorgan Chase for Epstein over 15 years. Internal compliance officers repeatedly flagged suspicious cash withdrawals, ranging from $40,000 to $80,000 several times a month. Those flags were systematically dismissed. Unhindered by banking oversight, Epstein converted this massive cash flow into a physical footprint. He purchased heavily secured, isolated properties specifically designed for abuse. The 2026 releases exposed the exact layout of these properties. Blueprints of his private island in the U.S. Virgin Islands and his $56 million Manhattan townhouse reveal extensive networks of hidden cameras monitoring his high-level visitors. He constructed an active, physically entrenched intelligence-gathering operation, actively shielded by Tier 1 financial institutions, willing to trade compliance for access. On July 6, 2019, the buffer of wealth finally broke. The Southern District of New York arrested Epstein on federal charges of sex trafficking, denying him bail due to his vast international resources. But the institutional rot he had relied on for decades followed him into custody at the Metropolitan Correctional Center. This timeline outlines the Inspector General's findings regarding the night of his death. A critical unmonitored window opens at 10:40 p.m., paired with guards entirely failing to conduct required rounds, falsified logbooks, and a malfunctioning security camera system pointing at his housing unit. The systemic negligence at the MCC ensured dozens of victims were deprived of a public trial. His corrosive influence on custodial systems ultimately proved fatal to the judicial process. Traditional criminal courts could not close the case. Accountability required the 2026 data drops, where independent investigators cross-referenced the newly unsealed court documents with modern tracking technology. This map visualizes near-intelligence location data. By tracking 200 mobile devices pinging off his private island between 2016 and 2019, investigators traced elite visitors directly back to multi-million-dollar mansions in Martha's Vineyard and locations across the street from Trump Tower. The sheer volume of verifiable data forced Washington into action. The House Oversight Committee initiated hearings, holding powerful political figures like the Clintons in contempt of Congress when they initially refused to testify about their connections. For decades, survivors like Virginia Giuffre fought against legal intimidation and public dismissals. The unsealing of these records finally validated their testimonies, providing the undeniable proof necessary to collapse the network's remaining protections. Extreme wealth can successfully rent institutional silence, compromise Tier 1 banks, and bury federal indictments. But a legislative mandate for total transparency forces the evidence into the light, writing the final, unredacted historical record.